Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United transfer news on this match day that we're going to be playing Crystal Palace, and it's the eve of the deadline day of the transfer window as well. So let's hit it straight away. We've already had it. Here we go this morning. Marcus Rashford is gone. He's gone to Aston Villa. We'll talk about the transfer madness around that because I think there's a good deal there for United, even though some people aren't happy about it. We'll also be talking about what's going on with a couple of the things as well. Could there be any more outgoings for United in the next 24 hours? But right here, right now, we've got updates from Fabrizio on Mathys Tel of Bayern Munich, and it looks like it's going to be Leon Bailey or Tel to Manchester United as things stand. Now, the Leon Bailey deal is just terrifying, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but let's give you the latest in relation to Tel. So this is what Fabrizio has said in the last hour. Understand Tel has still not 100% decided to stay at Bayern at this stage, and his exit remains possible in the final 36 hours. Manchester United are pushing for a loan move. Arsenal also called again in recent hours, all proposals being assessed by the player. He also goes on to say that understand Man United and Arsenal are both in contact with Tel's camp now. Cristiano Ronaldo and Thierry Henry are two of the main idols for Tel, who's now considering his options. Still, concrete chances to leave Bayern in the final 36 hours, waiting on the final decision. So, undecided Tel. And look, this is what happens. This is what happens. I mean, I've seen people going, oh, God, you know, we're in a race with Arsenal here. I'm sure Arsenal fans feel the same as us as well. I personally, look, this is not Arsenal Fan TV, but I personally think Arsenal being stuck for a 19-year-old who may or may not even be a striker is a bit desperate. I mean, Arsenal bidding 60 million for Watkins and then going for Tel, that they look very desperate to me, but that's Arsenal's problem. I think that they should be going for an out-and-out experienced striker. I don't think they should be going for that. I think for Manchester United, Tel is a very good deal because we're not really going to do anything in the league, and the Europa League is our focus, and we are building a team. So a younger player like Tel probably fits in with what we're doing. That doesn't mean he'll choose us over Man United, over Arsenal, though. That doesn't mean that. I just think we're in this situation where it looks like it's going to be us against Arsenal. I don't think he is going to stay at Bayern. I know that there has been this talk that he might stay at Bayern. I don't think he will. I think that the fact that he wasn't in the team yesterday because he's still making up his mind. I think the fact that Fabrizio Romano is talking about Thierry Henry and Cristiano Ronaldo means that that Fabrizio's probably getting information from his camp as well. But look, if he goes to Arsenal, are we left a little bit short? Yes. I think I don't really care that it's Man United or Arsenal in this. Obviously, I'd like us to win. I think he's an exciting talent, and I think if he goes to Arsenal, that's a bit disappointing. But look, Aaron Ramsey went to Arsenal. It wasn't necessarily a good move. We wanted him. He chose them. This can happen. And bottom line is, Arsenal are a better club than us at the moment by a considerable distance. It's whether we can sell him the project. And has Amrim done enough in a short period of time to sell him that project? And I would be pointing to the fact that things can only get better. We're a massive club. Look at what I've done in 2 months. Anthony and Rashford have been moved out. There is space for you in that attack. Neither Xerxes or Rasmus have pinned down the attacking spot. There is a real opportunity at this football club. Whereas with Arsenal, you go there, you might play a little bit, but when Saka comes back, and surely they're going to go for they're not going to use you up front, are they? That's not going to be their plan to try and win the title next year using a 19-year-old up front. So I think the prospects of him coming to United are reasonable. But you've got to be in this race. I don't dispute the fact that he might go to Arsenal, but if you want good players, you've got to put yourself in the race with big clubs. And I think in the past maybe we didn't do that. So look, let's see where it ends up. But I'm relatively confident that he will end up at Manchester United. I've just got a feeling that he will, and I think that we can offer him a better platform with less pressure. I think if you go to Arsenal and you play up front and you don't score goals, they'll be looking for their next striker very, very quickly. Whereas at Man United, I think he's he's probably going to get a bit more game time and a little bit more patience. Whereas I think Arsenal are heading towards a disappointing end to the season, if I'm being honest. And I think that's a pressure environment for someone like Tel to go into. They're not going to win the league, but they haven't lost it yet. They're not going to win the FA Cup because they're out of it. They're not going to win the Carabao Cup, but they're still in it. And they're not going to win the Champions League, but they're still in it. Whereas I think at Man United, the only way is up. We are 13th in the league and we're in the Europa League. So I just think Man United suits him better, but we'll see. You've got to be in it to win it, as I said. What's more concerning is the story that came out last night from Laurie Whitwell about Leon Bailey, which we sort of touched on a little bit. But looking around, it really does look like Manchester United are putting themselves in a situation whereby it will either be Tel or Leon Bailey based on talks that are going on at the moment. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, it's a bad thing because I don't rate Leon Bailey, but where are you going to pivot to if you don't get Leon Bailey and Tel? I don't want to be in a position in transfer deadline day where we're making phone calls going from Rondon to Agallo, those sort of things that have happened in the past. I think we do need to bring somebody in because Rashford's gone, Anthony's gone, whatever you think, they did get minutes to a certain extent under Amrim in his first 2 months. And it leaves us very focused on Garnacho and Ahmad as wide players because look, Dorgu may come in and be able to cover the left-hand side and Delo to a certain extent the right-hand side and Mazraoui, but they are still fullbacks. We need wingers in this system and we need more than two. And I think we need to bring somebody in. In relation to Leon Bailey, I mean, look, it's coming in from Laurie Whitwell and The Athletic that Man United have spoken about Leon Bailey, separate to the Marcus Rashford deal. I don't really get it. I don't really get it. I mean, it's funny. I know a few Villa fans anyway. They've been talking to me about Rashford, and then late last night, I'm sort of messaging them about Leon Bailey and saying, look, am I missing something here? Because to me, he's just one of those wingers that every now and again does something good, but comes across as ridiculously inconsistent, and certainly not somebody that you would expect is going to build a future at Manchester United over the next few years. And the predominant replies are, please take him. Like he's so inconsistent. So I don't really see. But then again, is he going to be a the trouble is if you did a deal with Leon Bailey and there's an option to buy, this becomes a longer term problem. If it's a short term Sabitzer sort of deal, try before you buy and then you send them back. I mean, look, on transfer deadline day, would you rather have nothing or would you rather have Leon Bailey? So I think there's always context. And if that's the only deal we can do between now and the summer, I would do it as long as we can send him back. But I don't want anything like that's leading to a permanent deal because I genuinely just don't think he's up to that. And I don't like to say that about anybody. And if we do bring him in, obviously I'm going to back him. But I just don't like. It's just not a player that in any way, shape or form gets me excited about him coming to Manchester United. I think he's a decent player on his day, but those days are few and far between at Aston Villa. So what's it going to be like at Manchester United? But having said that, if Ruben Amorim's identified him, I suppose it's a little bit different, isn't it? What about Nkunku, says Young. Look, I'd rather go for Nkunku than Leon Bailey, but let's not forget that Leon Bailey and Nkunku are virtually the same age, and Nkunku has spent the last 2 years flopping at Chelsea. Again, I don't really like any of these deals, but again, we're in that sort of position now where I suppose you're going, is Leon Bailey or Nkunku better than nothing? And the answer has to be yes. I suppose critically thinking, you could say, is this what happens at the end of a transfer window when you leave it late? I've seen a lot of United fans saying the transfer window in general, removing Anthony and Rashford and bringing in Dorgu and Tel would be quite good for a January transfer window, 2 in, 2 out, although 2 have been loaned, but they're still moving out. It would be quite good. But I think the context is we've left it very late. And I think I always talk about how the summer transfer window was quite good, but actually when you lived it, there was a criticism of how long and how late it was. I mean, you forget that because you come out of it and you go, McTominay went, Wan-Bissaka went, Donny went, we brought in Agate, Xerxes, Yoro, Mazraoui, De Ligt. But when you actually put yourself back in it, it was quite a frustrating window. Agate didn't come until the very end. McTominay didn't go until the very end. Wan-Bissaka didn't go till quite late. De Ligt and Mazraoui didn't come in till quite late. So yeah, we have left it a little bit late, I think. And I don't want to dismiss Nkunku or Leon Bailey if it's over nothing, but it is a January transfer window as well. I think we're in for an interesting 24 hours. I'm hoping we just get Tel, and tomorrow is about maybe a couple of outgoings, because that's something I want to say. Look, transfer deadline day tomorrow. What are we expecting? Dorgu's already here. Rashford's already gone. The Tel decision needs to be made. Do we go on to something else if that doesn't happen? Is there anything we can do on transfer deadline day in relation to people like Malacia or Casemiro? And that will be it. I mean, I don't expect tomorrow to be a particularly exciting day once we know what's happening with Tel, but I suppose time will tell on that one with Manchester United. Talking about the Marcus Rashford deal, I know we've done the here we go, but what I did want to say is that I think that there's been a few people sort of really happy about the deal. I mean, check the comments on the video this morning. I think that would be an understatement. I think there's a lot of people that are very excited about that. Andy A says, Mark, the Rashford deal is not done yet. I think when Fabrizio Romano is saying, here we go, we know the deal is done. So, yeah, I mean, upwards of 60%. Some are saying 70% of his wages covered, which financially is helpful. I never thought we would be in a situation where we're talking about how important transfers wages are in a loan deal, but when your football club is mooting that they're going to sell Garnacho, you suddenly realise how bad the situation is. So every £10,000 that Villa are going to pay us significantly helps us. I mean, if they're paying half the wages or they're paying 70%, that's going to be probably another $1 million over another, maybe even a little bit more across the deal. So that's good. The 40 million that's been mentioned as the fee, if they decide to make it a permanent deal in the summer, I think Rashford's got to be on board with that as well, which might be problematic. I don't know. We'll see how he gets on. Some people aren't happy with that. I mean, I think the only reason not to be happy with that is because a couple of years ago, we were talking about 80 million to PSG, but the player's been bad for 2 years, 18 months to be fair. And I think £40 million is a good deal. So, yeah, I'm very happy with that. Some people are saying we should be getting more, but I think baggage reduces your price. And even if he did well over the next 6 months, I think Aston Villa could point towards the previous 18 months. So I think £40 million, if we can get to that point, I'll be quite happy with it. And that's a big if, by the way. You know, there is a lot of downside to this where I wouldn't even be talking about the 40 million at the moment, because that's if things go well. And that's pure profit as well. And that's a big wage off your contract as well. I mean, I don't know what happens to his wage. I mean, his contract at Man United's got quite a few years to run. So when people are moaning about 40 million, you're also remembering that we're paying him 100 grand a week more than he's actually worth. He's not worth 350 grand a week or whatever he's on. So how do Villa swallow that up and then give us 40 million pounds is interesting. Will he be taking a pay cut at Aston Villa in the longer term? I don't know. But yeah, I'd be very happy with that deal. I'd do it now. 40 million quid and Marcus Rashford gone. I think it's a good deal all round. But I feel that there's another twist. I feel there's more twists in this story. A lot's got to go right for us to get to that. He's got to go to Aston Villa. He's got to perform well, and he's got to do it consistently. And those words worry me about Rashford performing well and doing it consistently. And let's forget not training. Let's forget bad performances. I think actually, honestly analysing it, the thing that's going to be interesting to see at Aston Villa is he has lost a yard of pace for some reason. Now, is that a lack of effort or is that a physical thing? He is not as quick as he used to be. I remember at the start of the season, people were saying he's not as quick as he used to be. And I'm like, you can't lose pace at 27. I've never seen that before. But then over the course of this season, it was very, very clear that explosive pace has gone. Now, is that a player that's been holding back, or is that a physical thing? Because that's going to impact his game at Aston Villa. Like, that was a big part of his game. So I'm looking at it, and if he suddenly is quick again, then maybe he was holding back a bit. But if he can't get that pace back again, then he's going to have to adapt to Aston Villa. And, you know, what are Aston Villa expecting, and what is the reality? I think we're all hoping he's going to do well so that we can close the chapter permanently in the summer. But that's an interesting thing. Henry Winter was talking about how Rashford really shouldn't be commuting from Manchester. He should be moving down to Birmingham and, encompassing himself into what is a great opportunity. I think that's a concern in itself, that apparently he's going to be commuting from Manchester. I know it's only a couple of hours down the road, but there's a lot of rumours around Rashford about the Manchester lifestyle. And if you're going to keep yourself in the Manchester lifestyle and commute to Birmingham, I mean, some people will say, well, he's got to drive 4 hours a day, but that'll keep him busy. But I just think that new challenge, new surroundings, but you can't. Look, Villa have done the deal that they've done. He's probably thinking, why would I move down there? But you could rent somewhere for 6 months. So there are still little things that worry me a little bit about whether this is going to work out with Rashford, because I think it needs to work out primarily for him. And then beyond that, Manchester United, Aston Villa benefit as well. So I'm going to watch it with very interesting observations. But on the face of it, I think it's a good deal. I think it's a good deal, out of sight, out of mind. And, you know, maybe we've learnt a lot from the Sancho deal, but if he does well, I don't think there's many Man United fans that are going to be saying we need to bring him back. And I don't think there's going to be many Man United fans who want him gone that will be disappointed if he does well, because we'll all be thinking about the summer and where he's going to go. Glenn C says, wouldn't be the first time he upped his game for a big contract, so anything is possible. David B says, how do these options to buy work? Aston Villa wants him for 40 million, but Barca say here's 50. Are we obliged to sell to Villa because they have an option, says David B. No, I mean, look, the finer details of that, I suppose, will come out at some point. I think what this is, and I'm just trying to figure out how it works, I think that if Aston Villa offer £40 million for Marcus Rashford, we probably have to accept it. Otherwise, what's the point in it? But I think if Aston Villa offer £40 million for Man United and we accept it, Marcus Rashford doesn't have to accept it. I think that's how it works. So the option to go to Barcelona might be there, and Rashford can sort of do that. But I'm not convinced that we would be able to say no to it, because otherwise, what's the point in having an option to buy? I think the power will be with Villa and Rashford, not with us. Which, I mean, look, at the end of the day, do we need any power in the situation? I think that's okay. Rashford and driving don't have a great history, says Marshall. Glenn C says it wouldn't be the first. I've done that one. Here is a good question, Mark. Do you think Rashford never reached his potential like Neymar, or he was never that good? The latter is what I think, says Yechi. Do we? Oh, bloody hell! He put me on the spot here on a Sunday morning. I haven't even had my coffee. Do we put Rashford on the same planet as Neymar? No, not for me. Do I think Neymar's as good as everybody makes out? No. I think Neymar got overhyped because Brazil hadn't had a real superstar player for a long time. And Neymar was decent, so they sort of hyped him up to being levels of people like Ronaldinho, etc., or R9, and he's not. I think Neymar could have been, but I think there are wasted talent stories with Neymar. With Marcus Rashford, I think look, I'd have to have some think about this. Marcus Rashford in the youth team was never really predicted to be the player he became in the first team. He sort of was a decent player, but he wasn't being predicted. No one was really talking about Marcus Rashford or Scott McTominay from the youth team and going, they're going to be first team players of real value. So Rashford, I remember Marcus Rashford came into the team because Will Keane, Michael Keane's brother, got injured. So Rashford got thrown in because of an injury crisis, and he scored. And he grabbed the opportunity, hungry, talent. And I think for the first few years, you thought, well, the sky's the limit. But I think when he hit sort of like 22, 23, I was like, if he can keep doing what he's doing, he's going to have a really, really good career. But I don't think he was ever going to be, certainly not in the Messi or Ronaldo areas, or even, you know, people like Vinicius Jr. today or Gareth Bale. You know, he was never going to be that type of a player. Mo Salah, no. It's hard to pigeonhole what Rashford could have been, but I think we all know there's limitations to his game in the sense that when he's on fire, he's unstoppable. But I think he's been figured out in the last 2 years. I think people know that when Marcus Rashford gets the ball, he's either going to take you on or shoot, and you can double up and stop that. He's not creative, and he doesn't work as hard as he used to in his early 20s. Now, maybe that's because of the back injury, but the criticisms of Rashford are, how badly did the back injury impact his ability to actually compete physically? How badly did his lack of interest in developing his creative side hinder his development? And also, I suppose, how badly did the entourage around him and the external factor impact his focus on football? So I think there's 3 issues with Marcus Rashford. 1, I think his game's quite predictable. 2, I think there's a lack of creativity. 3, how badly did the injury do him in the back? And 4, the entourage around him and his focus on football or what's going off on the pitch. And look, I've played the game. I haven't played football at the highest level, but I'm not a stranger to this is what I like to do. Somebody saying, can you come down to London? There's this event. Do you want to play darts with Luke Littler? Or do you want to go up to Manchester and do this with this brand? And I say no to a lot of it because my focus is on this. I'm not a footballer. But you might have that tomorrow morning. You've got a job to do, but then there's a meeting planned with your boss, and then there's a, you know, excursion day. Everybody can get external things that take them away from their job. Imagine what it's been like for Marcus Rashford since he wrote that book and COVID. It's external. Can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this? Can you do that? That's going to take your focus off. And maybe Marcus Rashford's better when he's focusing on one thing. Because when I look at his career when he started, his focus was football. And he was hungry. And the hunger's gone. And maybe the happiness is gone. And that's what he needs to rediscover. I'm happy we're cutting the cord with Rashi, says Josh, but given how he is a Manc lad, his family all there, I think him moving from Manchester is unlikely, sadly, says Josh. Rash, thank you very much for that, Josh. Do you think outgoings were more impressive than incomings, says Sartek? No, I think Dorgu, and can I just say about Dorgu, there is talk that he'll be on the pitch ahead of the Crystal Palace game today. Don't know whether that's going to happen because United aren't giving anything away that there's an announcement. So this happened with Varane and a couple of other players, but it had been announced by the club. There's no indication that the club are actually going to announce this before kickoff. So I don't know how that works. I personally think the club are going to announce this on transfer deadline day as a, this is our business for the transfer window. Welcome Dorgu. So let's wait and see. The Rashford deal is good for both parties. I wish him all the best, says Carlos. These loan signings are so crap. This Man United level that we need Ineos cheap deals. This is Dazzo. Do you rate Fati? He's out of favour at Barcelona. I think Fati's a talented player, but he also has massive injury problems. Hi, Mark. And he didn't do that well at Brighton. Do you think a short drive down the M6 rather than overseas moves gives Rashford the hard cultural reset he needs? Seems a bit too comfy. Don't think he'll even need to move house, says Toe. No, that's what I'm sort of saying. And even Henry Winter, who's a massive fan of Marcus Rashford, I mean, it's his guy in the media, isn't it? Even Henry Winter is saying that he should be moving down to Birmingham. I don't think staying in similar surroundings is going to... I don't think it's even good for you. I mean, imagine if you go to work at a certain place and this is where you live, and then you don't go to work at that place anymore, but this is where you live. Like, I think he needs that new challenge. Look, driving down the M6 to Birmingham might not be a massive issue. We just have to wait and see. Aston Villa is going to be a challenging place, though. They're in a bad run at the moment. They lost again last night to Wolves, so there's a lot of it's very interesting to watch. I hope Rashford scores a ton of goals so we can get 40 million for him to reinvest, says Sanil. And good morning, Mark. Apart from Dorgu, who have we signed this window? No one at the moment. Thank you very much for that. And Andy says, let's call it what it is. He will not tear it up at Villa. He will do okay, but Villa will say thanks, but no thanks. We'll be scrambling till the end of the summer transfer window, looking to offload another loan, says Andy. Yeah, look, this drama could continue very, very quickly, and that could be in the summer. But for now, I just think it's nice that we just park it a little bit and are able to move on, because I think that we're all a little bit tired of it. And ultimately as well, I think that we've got a scenario whereby the manager has made such a major statement, and he doesn't have to keep doing it anymore. Look, there'll be people in the media that are going to come from Amrim, by the way. The honeymoon is over with Amrim. It's not with us, but the honeymoon is over with Amrim. I told you what they were saying about Dorgu on Sky the other night. He's not even signed for us yet, and apparently he's a bit of a dodgy signing. So they're coming for Amrim, and now they've just removed the media darling. Now, when I say media darling, Marcus Rashford would probably be, if he was watching, say, media darling, have you seen what they write about me? Being a media darling doesn't mean that the media necessarily are nice about you all the time. It just means that they know you're a story. Whether it's the Manchester Evening News, the Athletic, Daily Mail, the Sun, whatever, Man United and Marcus Rashford is a goldmine of story, and that's just been removed. Who's removed it? Amrim. So they'll be coming for Amrim. They will, because what's the next story? I actually read something this morning, and it's true. Now Marcus Rashford's gone. It's like when Ten Hag left. When Ten Hag left, you had all this toxicity around Ten Hag. Look, some of you were right, sack Ten Hag, but there is this minority in our fan base that are very vile, they're very aggressive, they're very angry, they're very toxic, and that's because that's what they are. They make it about threats, they make it about violence. It's not a nice way to be. And when Ten Hag went, I was like, them people aren't just suddenly going to become nice. They're still doing it. And they move on to players then. Now Rashford's gone, one of those players. What happens now then? What happens now? Who's getting it next? Because we're never going to be at that point where that anger and toxicity behaviour doesn't disappear. So what's coming next? And it's going to be very interesting to see. I mean, I was reading some people today who were basically writing these eulogies about Marcus Rashford, saying all these goals, oh, what a servant to the club. Thank you so much, Marcus Rashford. You've been let down by the club, this, that, and the other. And I was thinking, well, at the end of the day, if I look up at your timeline, you're also rimming Amrim verbally in relation to like how much you love Amrim. And these people don't know their arse from their elbow. So they're saying thank you to Marcus Rashford. It's not your fault. It's the way the club's run. And then 2 tweets before, they're loving Amrim. And I'm like, hold on a minute. You can't have your cake and eat it. Amrim's got rid of Rashford. So if the club's let Rashford down, Amrim's let him down. And this is the hypocrisy, isn't it? You're either with the manager or you're with Rashford. This is ended because those two, as Romano said, have had a complete and utter breakdown in relationship. So Rashford's been forced out by how the club's run, and it's not his fault. Oh, I love Amrim. Like this is what I said last night. Player FC needs to die. You can't justify why Rashford's going and then justify that you love Amrim. Amrim has made a very big call here, and he's put a big target on his back. And I think that I like that. It's brave. It's what Sir Alex Ferguson used to do. But we, as the army, the Amrim army or the Rashford army or whatever you want to call yourself, we've got to prepare for a battle now, because this whole Rashford Amrim thing's been going on for too long, and it's over. This whole flirting with selling Garnacho has went on for too long. It's over. It's time to batten down the hatches now. I'm looking at between February and May, and I'm looking at Bilbao, I'm looking at the final of the Europa League, and I'm looking at winning that. And I know I've been talking about it for a while now, but forget the Rashford stuff. Let's see what happens with Tel in the next 24 hours. But the big focus now is the road to Bilbao, the road to the Europa League, because that's the thing that will define our next 5 years. We won't be in Europe next year if we don't win the Europa League or the FA Cup again. And I think the Europa League's easier to win, and it's got the bigger prize because it's £80 million next season guaranteed for being in the Champions League. We have to win that Europa League. That has to happen. And that's the focus now. We've got to build towards that. And it starts today with Crystal Palace. Look, there's no question about whether Rashford's going to be on the bench or when he's coming back. He's gone. So it's Garnacho staying. It's Ahmad. It's Bruno. It's Xerxes, Rasmus. Hopefully Mason Mount can get back. Like, hopefully we can get this Tel in. Dorgu's coming in. We've got to start building from today towards that May game. That is going to be so important. The minute we drop out the Europa League is when I will panic, because I will go, shit, what money have we got in the summer then? What's happening next year? Like, people are talking about, oh, at least we won't be playing midweek and he can train the players. We are financially screwed if we've got no European football next year. I don't even know how much we've earned out of the Europa League. I don't know how much Chelsea will earn out of the Conference League, but it's still tens of millions of pounds. So the focus now has got to be on the pitch, and that is why removing Rashford and Antony is a good thing, because we've just got to focus on the pitch. We won't have many summer signings if we don't make Europe, by the way. Like, you can't be borderline PSR and then go, yeah, let's spend a load of money when we're going to lose tens of millions of pounds. Double D says, I'm going to change the subject and applaud Garnacho's response to some criticism. He's put his head down and done what is required by Amorim, says Double D. Well, I saw some people yesterday saying, look, Garnacho won, because some people wanted to make it about Rashford and Garnacho, didn't they? And Garnacho won. I think Garnacho needs to just keep doing what he's doing, because he hasn't won. There's still an exit door there that he can be booted out of if he slips off. There's still an element of our fan base that don't like Garnacho. So he hasn't won anything. He's won a stay of execution. He's got to keep working hard every single game now, because I think there's a target on him. I think there's people that preferred Rashford who aren't happy about it. I think there's a media that will always jump on him. And obviously Amorim's given him a warning as well, but he has responded well. United Nick says, glad we haven't sold Mainu or Garnacho. They need time to develop fully. Apart from Giggs, the class of 92 were not in their first team every week at 19. Absolutely not. Brilliant point. Absolutely. Dan O'Connell says, do you think the Garnacho transfer stuff will come back in the summer if he stays and the media will make more crap up about him? Yes. As I say, I think there's a target there, and I think Man United know that there was some interest, and it might come back to Mainu as well. Like, let's not forget they were talking about Mainu at the start of the January transfer window. Ryu Zaki says, it's disappointing the Rashford saga played out like this. I hope Ineos keep backing the manager. And Rasmus getting next. We know how it works, says Ray Carl Brown Amori. And John says, I wonder what question the mainstream are going to choose to repeat to Amorim every press conference now, says John. Yeah, we'll wait for that one. And well, they'll still ask him about it, won't they? It'll be, oh, Marcus scored against Leicester for Aston Villa. What do you think about that? Is he coming back? Or Marcus isn't getting picked for Aston Villa at the moment. What do you think about that? He'll still get questions about it. Liking Trash says, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me at all if the journalists still kept asking Amorim questions about Rashford in the press conference. They 100% will. They 100% will. If you had to pick a new goalkeeper in the summer, who, says Liam? I mean, I do think Costa makes a lot of sense, but I don't think we'll do it. I think a young goalkeeper who's about 20 with a bit of experience in Europe, who has the potential to become one of the world's best goalkeepers when they're about 25, is exactly what Man United should be looking at. So put those parameters in and see what comes up. You need somebody coming in who's not replacing an Arna, but can replace an Arna. That's what I think we need to go for, because they'll be cheaper as well. Let's call it what it is. Done that one from Andy. And Toe Jam says, my Rashford decline theory is that he's one of those rare cases of a talented player who doesn't necessarily love or even like the game and just sees it as an income for him and his family. I think he loved it up until probably 23. I think he did love it. You know, that was one of the things that was so attractive about Rashford's play when he broke through. He was everywhere. He was fast. He was, yeah, I think he did love it. I think he might have fell out of love with it because of all for a number of reasons, but I think it would be unfair to say that he didn't love it. We're back at midday. It's countdown to kickoff at midday because it's a 2 o'clock kickoff. A big day ahead. We'll obviously keep you updated what's happening with Tel. Bayern played yesterday, so you would expect he's going to make a decision at some point today or tomorrow, so we'll be ready to react to that. We're still waiting on the official announcement of Dorgu, which could be tomorrow or could be today. We're live at midday for countdown to kickoff. I'm back with you at 1:30. It's a 2 o'clock kickoff. I'm then match reactioning and going very quickly to That's Football at 4:30 for Arsenal against Man City. And then we're back here at 8 o'clock. So big day of football. And hopefully you're going to share it with us and get involved in the conversation, which I'm sure is going to drift all over the place as more news comes in. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in this morning. 18,000 live legends. And get into the chat if you're not watching live. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. And we'll speak to you again very soon. Take care, everyone. Speak to you in a bit.